Hi, I'm Julia Lewald, writer on X-Men the Animated Series.
And I'm Eric Lewald, showrunner on X-Men the Animated Series.
And this is a very special episode of The Power of X-Men.
So, unless you're living under a rock, you may have heard that Disney announced on Disney Plus Day that we're getting a revival of the X-Men animated series.
Yes, the new series is called X-Men 97, and it seems that many of the original cast members are returning, as well as a lot of the behind-the-scenes folks.
Folks like showrunner and series writer Eric and Julia Lewald.
Hello.
Who we have on the podcast today.
Welcome. So, how are you guys feeling after all that was announced?
She's the one that handles the rest of the world through social media.
I try.
And so I was doing fine that first day, but she was just stressing out with the literally hundreds of people she felt she had to reply to. And I just said, look, it'll keep, it's fine. But it was both exhilarating and gratifying. I was just
and a little terrifying.
It was a little surreal. I mean, having all this stuff being about this thing, and we had not heard about it for that long.
No, yes, no. Whatever we had to sign to have this conversation.
We are
being discreet.
We're
being very discreet.
When Marvel contacted us about the series, we signed an NDA, and we couldn't talk to anybody. And when it was getting near the revelation that morning, people had been writing Julia on Twitter. Is it happening? Are you guys involved? And she just
heard a rumor. Is it really true? Is it really true?
Just
Or we wish, or wouldn't that be nice?
We're hoping. And,
fingers crossed.
And so,
and
boom,
then the release of the information. Then.
So, it's really cool because people have been asking us for 5 years, and we've been going to cons since we've got these books going about the show. So, are you going to do another season? You want to do another season?
We want to do another season.
And we just said, we and the writers and the artists all love doing it so much. I mean, we can't say that about half the shows we worked on, but we love doing it so much. Of course, we'd welcome that. And I said, but nobody's ever mentioned that, and we certainly haven't heard anything about that from Marvel. And we really hadn't. We weren't being coy or anything. We just really hadn't heard anything. They're very good, even though they've probably been planning since the day that Disney Plus was announced to do this show. They didn't announce it to anybody. And finally, we heard about it recently. And when they contacted us saying if we wanted to consult, and we said, yeah, we'd love to. And so now 4 years of questions from people. Yeah, it's going to, and it is. The nice thing is it's not a weird new reimagining. If you guys have seen the designs, it is a continuation, a few months later of where we left off with the same characters and the same setup. So that's wonderful. And these, when they contacted us, it was like this team of 60 people that are your guys' age or younger that have been working on this for a while, and that was surreal too because we were brought on kind of they hadn't been told.
We're not on the artist side; we're on the writing side.
Yeah.
So the beginnings of all this, the artwork that we were then afforded the chance to take a look at, it was like, oh my God, the people have been working on this and doing remarkable work for a while now on that side of things. And it was gratifying to see more than a few of them had the art of X-Men the Animated Series.
So the book in the background
on their shelf.
Zoom meeting.
That's a Bible. That's a Bible of everything.
That was some nice connective tissue there to see that.
But it's been an intense 3 days for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask, when we scheduled you for this interview, because we scheduled this a couple of weeks ago, did you know that something? Because I'm thinking in my head that maybe you guys knew and you were going to know how excited we were going to be.
We didn't know. We had been contacted about the show, about consulting for the show.
Mm-hmm. What we didn't know was that there was going to be a Disney Plus Day announcement on November 12th.
We didn't know.
We didn't see that train coming.
That was obviously they had to announce at some point, but
it didn't occur to us that
we weren't told about that till about a week in advance. So when we set this all up, we had, for all we know, they were going to announce it in January, or whenever. So that was news to us, and we set up this without
So you're,
without foreknowledge.
so you're the first people we've spoken to.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, here we thought we were going to have a really like in-depth conversation about One Man's Worth. and
We still can.
and we
still
are.
will.
But we had to, when the news dropped, we looked at the script and we're like, oh, we need to go back and we got to ask some questions because we're so excited. And the first thing I have to ask, Larry, he's coming out of retirement for this.
The three of us with Larry Houston, and we've been friends since the show, and it's been, on back and forth, over the last 25, 30 years. And that, part of the glue that sticks us together is that we worked on the X-Men and that was a phenomenal experience for us. And then just, and I've said this before, that the animated series was kind of like the child of an ugly divorce over the years because Marvel was going through bankruptcy. Saban owned some of the rights. Fox Kids stopped existing. All these various things happened. So there was no cohesive corporate entity in place to sort of support
And keep it alive.
keep the show alive.
So the reason that there's still tens of millions of people wanting to see some new version of the show is just fan devotion. It's not like this has been a corporate trick to get some people to keep watching a show. It's just they really want to see some more episodes.
So
and,
it was up to Larry and Eric and me to sort of go out there and literally kind of beat the bushes at some cons and fests and just say, remember the X-Men? We really have to hear some stuff about the X-Men.
And 8 out of 10 people that came to our tables would say, oh, how nice you've got X-Men merch. And then, oh, you guys made the show. So there was really the majority of people, because there was, at the time that we did the show, when we were done, we just went on to another show. There was no book coming out, there's no promotion, there was no connecting us with the series, and it was just people loved the series, but they didn't have any idea who wrote and drew it,
right?
And they, no reason they should. It's just the books helped, which is her nudging. Doing the 2 books helped kind of get us more visible, and I'm sure has helped us become involved with this as well.
But with talking with Larry, and saying the one thing he would step out of retirement for would be something about X-Men, the animated series. And we're always going, boy, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be fun? Gee, Larry, yeah, wow. For over the last 5-6 years, boy, yeah.
And there have been some announcements that it was happening, and there was hints to the press and Hollywood Report,
and
whatever.
We can tell you none of that
was real.
None of that was real.
That was, until Marvel told us. I mean, I know Marvel's been planning to do it, but they hadn't contacted any of us. They hadn't contacted the voiceover people who are a number. Yeah, you're right. I think they've got 9 folks from the original show,
unbelievable,
either as leads or as guest stars already locked in for this first season.
I did an event with Larry over in California, and we went out to dinner afterwards, and I got that man a beer, and I point blank asked him, and nothing. He was like, no, nothing. Like, it's just, I can't believe it. I mean, this came together so quickly.
That's the crazy part, because we also know how things work around here, and it's always in slow motion.
Yeah.
I guess we could say, well, it's been 30 years in the making. But as far as what this new thing is, I am still really trying to wrap my head around it. Still really trying to understand that this really does feel like it's going to be the next iteration of season 6.
And it really is, and we're really looking forward to seeing all the development and what this new crew have done, because it's kind of, for us, it's kind of a repeat. Back 30 years ago, we were the age of the people that are doing the new show. We're in our 30s, and people like Stan were around that had been with Marvel forever for decades.
Stan Lee. He's talking about Stan Lee.
Yeah.
I think we've heard of him.
Yeah. So they were kind of watching us as the new upstarts doing this new show in the early 90s. And now, we shake our heads that it's 30 years later, and we're watching these new 20 and 30 somethings at Marvel who've all come together. Evidently, they all love the show. They all grew up on the show. At least they tell us. And so they're going to do their version of it, but it's whatever it turns out to be, it seems to come from a place of love and fandom from them, not from, oh, gee, I've got a new idea for doing the X-Men that's going to be something weird and different and contrarian.
Or like, does Jean Grey really need to be a redhead? You know, those things. No,
Audible gasp.
look at you. Look at you.
If you don't know who my
Scary.
favorite character is, let me remind you.
Yeah.
We have all lived
Yeah.
long enough to see reboots and reiterations that are like, why are you doing that? Whereas this one really feels, like you said, love and respect.
Yeah. So you don't know. I mean, the first sounds like they're talking about a premiere of maybe late summer of 2023.
Yeah.
So that's a year and a half from now. In a year and a half, how we've heard a little of recordings with some of the original stars. We've seen a little bit of animatic from the first script. So we're getting a feel for it. But how that, what happened with us was just magical. And we've watched other shows we thought were going to be good, not turn out well. Ones we thought were not going to be so good turn out really nicely. There's so many steps between now and premiering. We're just gonna keep our fingers crossed that these guys' wonderful intentions play out. They certainly have 3 times the time that we did. Not that we're bitter, to get this stuff done.
And they all seem to have just crazy talent. The ones that we've had the chance. Again, it's we have only recently gotten a chance to speak with certain people in certain departments, but they all seem.
Yeah, we're thrilled with the character
people.
design. It was close enough to what ours was. It was like 95% looked like what our design had been, but slightly updated, slightly massaged, so that anyone could watch who loved the original show can say that's Xavier, that's Wolverine, that's Beast. There's not a there's not a strange new.
Yeah, it's not like just a
designs.
complete revamp of the designs. It's respectful to what you guys had paved the way for.
Yeah, absolutely. Larry was on with us. Larry's eyes were big too. He said, "How did they manage this balance of keeping what we had, but putting just a little bit of modernity, or whatever, something new?" Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question? Because I feel like the reason why the series has resonated with so many of us, I know for Scott and I, the reason why it's resonated so powerfully with us is because of the mutant metaphor, for example, and how well you guys captured it. As writers, asking you two as writers, I know you guys are under NDAs, you can't say much, but I'm curious, you as writers, how do you feel like the mutant metaphor works in today's world?
I think it was relevant then in the 1990s. It has remained relevant because of what it is. Anybody who has ever felt other, or who has been called other, or who has been not allowed to be part of something, just the rage and the hatred and the anger that continues to exist in this world. I mean, did we not teach you people anything? Honestly, it's 30 years later and we're still having to go through this crud. But and tragically, as long as there is that kind of hate and ugliness, I think the mutant metaphor will forever be relevant.
Yeah,
whatever the problem is.
And you're talking about one man's worth. There's that one of the favorite lines from Storm about.
Oh, I love it.
Skin color prejudice. Because
That's
it's 2055. Surely everybody's past this by now.
She said something to the fact that's so antiquated, it's precious. Something like that.
That's
line
pathetic.
was
it's almost quaint.
Yeah,
and
that line has stuck with me since I was a kid. Since I saw it when I was 11.
Wolverine's response, "It ain't quaint," and
to me, yeah.
And realizing but that ugliness, we all know what we're talking about, and any person, anything, anyone, I think can identify with.
And that was a real gift to us. One of the things we realized the first day we were handed this job in 1992 was, we have this to build on, because we knew we obviously got to know fans quickly, and we read as many of the books as we could. And about half of the interest was any fanboy's interest is, these big spectacular people. There was the spectacle of it all.
Right,
was a massive creature fighting another massive creature and watching half the city blow up. And that was kind of cool, but there are 50, books that you could do that with. There's only one book that you can just focus on the humanity and the sense of otherness that the mutants have. And so we really leapt on that as opposed to the other side.
When you and your head writer best friend, Mark Eden, sat down to sort of pencil out what would be at the time the only 13 episodes of the series, because that was all the faith anyone had in the show, you made the conscious decision to open with the Sentinels having been created by humans to serve as the terrified humans interface with mutants in general. And then
an embodiment of their hatred and fear.
And I think that brilliantly set up the rest of the series for the fact that it wasn't just immediately mutant on mutant. It was, oh my God, the humans are setting these things out there to control this thing. Yeah. And that's, I think, how it became so powerful.
Well, Julia, it's funny, in our episode or our last season intro, I have the quote from you where it's like, we start off with the Sentinels and then we get to Magneto. And when we get to Magneto, he may not be wrong in his approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I appreciate, there's some runs of the book that it's very black and white, good guys, bad guys. I appreciate there's some runs in the book where they have sympathy for him and where, or even comes on and becomes part of the X-Men, or the fact that we were able to play him as his own kind of idealist, but in such contrast to Xavier that they couldn't help but fight.
But they also,
but they were their
deepest friends,
deepest friends in the world. So that is such a great bit of drama that again, a gift from part of the books. I mean, you go through one of the nice things that Bob Harris at Marvel gave to us, who was kind of our supervisor, from the creative supervisor at the time. He just said, look, there've been half a dozen different histories. There's various canon, there's various ways of dealing with these characters. You've got 30 years of the stuff to work with. Pick the stuff that you like and don't worry about if it fits, because there's no way to make it fit. That was just versus, oh, well, let's sit down and let me tell you how each of these people has to live. If we were completely off base with a character, he'd call us on it. But as long as we were true to the individuals, we could take the stories anywhere we wanted to.
Well, like on that note, with it coming back, is there a particular story that you really want to tell that you weren't able to tell in the 90s?
Interesting. You say in the 90s, meaning because of the
there is one we can't talk about, I think.
Well, you know what? Let's not even worry about that. Let me say this, that stories, what we didn't get to do, I think, was because what you didn't get to do as a story editor, or any of us as writers on the show, there were so many characters to service within the team anyway. There were 9 people to service up front. So I would have loved, I didn't get a chance to write for Nightcrawler, would have loved to have written for Nightcrawler. And the fact that stories about faith, whether it's Christian, whatever it is, that a genuine exploration of faith happened on X-Men. I still can't believe that was allowed. And that to me is one of those landmark episodes where it's not proselytizing. It's just an examination of one character's faith, one character's search for understanding, and other people around them having their own opinions on the matter. And that includes Gambit saying, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, there are certain things, I mean, we really pushed as hard as we could against the restrictions of being a kids show on Saturday morning. But those were real restrictions, and these folks won't have those restrictions.
Well,
this is I think they're focusing this more. The audience are thinking about our core audience, maybe teens on Disney Plus and adults. And so it was a weird new push for us to have adult themes in the show. Mm-hmm. They're starting out with adult themes. So they're starting out with thinking of this is a bunch of adults thrown together, struggling with something. And we're going to show the melodrama, and we're going to show some of the personal things that adults go through, where we kept on, at least at the beginning, getting weird questions from various people involved saying, well, are kids going to watch this? And now we proved that they could. This new show is going to start out without. I mean, I know we can't tell you any specifics, but it's going to be. They're going to be able to tell adult stories without looking over their shoulder and wondering if this is going to be kid friendly for Fox kids.
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Not only did you guys prove them wrong back in the day, but 30 years later, people are still talking about the series. Yeah, regardless of what's happening now with Disney Plus, we will still be talking about the series 30 more years from now. So you proved everyone wrong.
Thank you so much for that. That means so much.
Yeah, it does.
And
So,
I know the Faith episode, Scott and I really love where Mystique is about to throw baby Nightcrawler off the cliff.
Off the cliff.
But then what's so brilliant of what you guys did, then you cut back later in the episode to her eyes and she's crying as she's doing it.
And crying in animation, which is not, I'm telling you, these things are not easy and they aren't cheap. And we didn't have money or time back then, but you bought it. You bought it. They sold it. It worked. Yeah. Oh, one thing though, 1990s, I think you would have, season 5, there was such a tremendous budget disastrous cut, you know, and no one can defend how most of the animation ended up looking, but there were some rock solid stories in season 5. And I think the last episode, Graduation Day, it still chokes me up. But originally the game plan was for you to wrap the series up with the 4-part Beyond Good and Evil.
Oh, I know.
And that, you know, to have been able to wrap up the show with those 4 stories, I think would have been very satisfying. Yeah, if I can say that. Yeah, a real coda to the show back then. But
yes, we're excited. We think these people, the couple of voiceover artists that have spoken to us about the scripts they've seen are very excited. They say it feels like 1992. Beast called us from Toronto, saying for just 3 episodes in the same room, in the same recording studio that he did 30 years ago.
That was cool.
That was very
so cool.
Just said it, and he said it felt like 1992. It just was. It was too good.
And guys, Scott has a question, but I'm going to interject really quickly. I hate Hank McCoy in the comics. He is a sociopath. The only good Beast is the one you guys did, and George. That's it.
He is spectacular, and I still think Hank McCoy. He is my damaged poet romantic. You know, he's my romantic
the way
poet.
You're taking it. You're right. He's in the books. In some of the books, he gets edgy and nasty.
But in our window,
yes,
in our chunk of time, he's my favorite. Remains my favorite. Yeah.
You were talking about how a lot of the old cast is really excited. Who would you say is probably the most excited to come back?
Oh, that's a fair question.
That's right, because it's been in the press. So with the nine names that are coming,
we have heard directly because again they're in Canada.
Yeah, we've heard from Cal. Cal is
Wolverine
beyond himself.
He's thrilled, and Lenore Zann, who is Rogue, is very. I mean, she's thrilled about this too.
Yeah.
Oh, she commented on my Instagram page saying, "See you soon, sugar."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about it. They did this amazing work, and then they just they went on with their careers in Toronto. But we started going to cons, and they said, "Well, who did the voices?" Well, we don't. The fans had never seen pictures of them, and never, who was it that was so wonderful as Rogue or as Storm? And he said, "Okay, well, we wrote about them in the books and interviewed them, and for some of them that was the first time anybody had asked them in 25 years about what was it like doing the show." So
this is such a nice sort of victory lap, if I can, or
validation for them for the work they did back then, because they hadn't been hearing that from people.
I love that. Oh, well, we're all so excited that the series is coming back. Just one final question.
Sure.
Beau De Mayo, is that how you say his name? He's a Florida State grad. I graduated from FSU as well. So I have to ask, he's the head writer. How's it working with him?
He is such a sweetheart. It's like, again, talking with a fan who happens to be a really good writer. He's been wonderful, and everyone we've spoken with have just been
saying
so
how
sincere,
yeah,
so
and
genuine.
and he's really the heart and soul of this new show.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
I'm sure if he hadn't wanted to have Larry and Julia and me on to consult, it never would have happened. So we owe him that, and 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 it's just, he seems really well loved by the people around him. We haven't been into like the writer's room yet or anything.
I don't know if anybody has.
Yeah.
Thank you, COVID. Just saying.
But it seems like he's got the love and respect of his crew. So we're gonna spend a little more time with him the next couple of weeks. But for now, it feels like the show's in really good hands.
Yeah.
And good, bad, or indifferent, it's we'll do what we can to help, but it's his show.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he's so lucky to have you guys in his corner. We're so excited. The other thing you guys did recently was announce the X-Men Hasbro wave for the 30th anniversary. And Ryan Ting, I was telling you this before we hit record. Well, you guys know because you were on the email. Ryan Ting reached out to us and was like, "Hey, I heard your episode with the Lewalds. Can I get a line to them?" And I was like, "Oh my God, how was it like announcing those figures?"
You're a kingmaker.
Yeah.
You're a kingmaker, man.
Yeah. Oh no, she loves merch, and she loves unveilings. So she got to be the 7-year-old child ripping open and showing the.
I didn't really even appreciate that they sent us this whole elaborate, electronic recording set, and then this giant box of gorgeous new materials. The VHS of Wolverine, the VHS of Jubilee. And I didn't know that they were going to ask us to hold it up for the camera and reveal it during this Hasbro Pulse event. Oh my God. And all credit to the artwork of Dan Wiesenmeyer, who's done the amazing box art for those, who was also on the original X-Men, the animated series.
Storyboard artist.
And boy, the folks at Hasbro have just been the nicest people. Yeah. And that PulseCon, again, we didn't appreciate the reach of that thing, but my God, that set some internet on fire.
Oh, it certainly did. And I think they unveiled Mr. Sinister afterwards. So everyone's just so excited. I mean, who knew it was going to look like that? I mean, like the box art and everything.
Box art, yeah. We even have old VHS tapes here just because that's so iconic, from that particular time period in the world of X-Men. So the fact that Hasbro had, I don't know who had that insight or that bolt of lightning to go, wait a minute. This is how we need to do the box art, make it a VHS tape. It's like dying, of course.
Brilliant.
Of course. Yeah.
Do you think we'll get like a morph figure?
I don't know, but
we have not been told. You'll have to go find Dan Wiesenmeyer and hit him with a stick. He knows the art on all of them, and he knows what they are, and he has not told us.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. And Dan, by the way, for folks listening at home, Dan, if you have the X-Men animated series book, you can mail it to him and he'll illustrate one of your favorite characters right there in the title page.
Yeah, or if you can see him at a con, he signs stuff. He does original art for you if you come by his table.
If we ever go to cons again.
Yeah.
Soon.
Since the book came out, we have not been able to attend a single con since October 2020. That was going to be a big thing for us to go out with the art book.
Yeah.
And we haven't been able to.
We did the New York City con, but we did it virtual.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
No, it's not. Are you guys going to do LA Comic Con?
Yes.
We are going to do that one
now. Good.
But about 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Is that that's going to be your big return to cons?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Well, fingers crossed that everything is fine.
Yeah. Yeah. We and Larry are going to have a booth and then do a panel on Sunday.
Well, I mean, fingers crossed. Yes, there you go. But if you get really slammed with work on a certain project, I mean, I'm sure everyone will. I'm sure the internet will understand.
Have us just say busy writing.
Yeah, gone fishing. On writing. Yeah.
Julia, I know you're a big Fortnite fan, and did you see who is coming to Fortnite?
I have seen everything, but I can't play it because my stupid iPhone, I had to reload. I had to do something in my phone and I magically managed to shut it all down. So I've not been able to play Fortnite since the big Apple kerfluffle, but I'm following it all online. So yeah.
Dark Phoenix is coming.
Phoenix.
Fortnite.
To Fortnite. Now, I don't know how anyone doesn't win if you play as Dark. I don't know how they're cheating that she just can't, and the whole island goes.
Yeah, there's an example of something that the new guys could do that we couldn't do. In the end of Dark Phoenix, it would have been more satisfying if someone had died instead of just everybody has to lose 20% of their life essence to keep her. We couldn't kill off that character at that point. It just was too much. We'd already killed off more or tried to.
Well, he wasn't. Well, that was authentic.
Yeah, that was authentic.
That was an authentic.
But it just there are certain things that can be a bit much for a kid show, and there were moments like that where it would have been more satisfying, a heroic sacrifice to have someone die, and they could continue since this is more of an adult show. They could lose a cast member 3/4 of the way through. We don't know. We don't know where their stories are going yet.
Just yet, yeah.
But that's the kind of thing that we couldn't contemplate, even if we thought it was good for the story.
Wow, interesting. So, I mean, that was a question we were going to ask later on. If Jean originally was supposed to die, that's something I didn't ask you guys last time you were on the show. Was Jean originally intended to die at the end of Dark Phoenix? And how did you land on that 20% of life?
That was just desperation. That was me coming up with a way to have her die, to have someone make a heroic sacrifice, since it was required at that point in the story, and it became a communal one, which is a little bit of a cheat, but I thought it ended up being very resonant.
Yeah, no, it was very beautiful, and they each gave a part of their life for her. I mean, it did the trick. I mean, you did get to have her. I don't know if we talked about this last time. My interpretation of how Jean dies on the moon was Xavier says the weapons just came online. It's Jean, and then Lilandra just walks over to hit the button. I always thought that was Jean telepathically controlling every situation. If you guys, if it wasn't from you guys, then I'm obviously overreading it.